Arrows?
Yeah. Simple enough.
How you doing? Excuse me.
Is it going to show it last?
Say, what's the code? What's the code again?
It's a secret knock.
No, I tried him. It's weird how I was just shooting it down. Yeah. It would be, it would be going in and checking if it's outdated. Really? I wonder if people they did like the software letter for years. Of course, you know, that might be on the thread. Well, I'm on escrow. Bad. You just want access to the property. That's what you
I'll take.
Yeah. And is
They won't share the property. I can understand that. And for this going into. Kind of property. You ready, Kevin?
Whenever you're ready.
All righty, so, good morning, everybody. Diego Mendoza, Chicago Title. David Rodriguez here, one of our escrow officers, which I'm sure you guys all know. And then we have Tana back there, which I'm sure you guys all know Tana. So today, just want to thank you guys for having us here, giving you guys yet another class. So today, David here, will be going over state withholding and federal reporting. So I know you guys might have questions even as for your clients, even for yourselves, if you guys are investing, the percentages, what goes where, calculating all that. So David went ahead and put something together for you guys. So throughout the whole presentation, if you guys have any questions, ask away. David's here for all that. So the more questions, the better for him. So but yeah, anything else you want to say, David, before you go ahead and start? So
Cool. I'll start off by saying, I'm not a CPA and I'm not a tax advisor. These are just our responsibilities as a settlement agent, part of an escrow transaction. You know, tax season is right around the corner, and unfortunately, Uncle Sam wants his portion, so we got to make sure that we report it correctly. I'll start off talking about the state of California and their responsibility. So whenever a property gets sold here in California, it requires two different types of taxes. There's state taxes to the franchise tax board. There's federal taxes to the IRS. So I'll start off talking about the 593. The 593 is a tax form that the sellers complete part of the escrow transaction to report the taxes to the franchise tax board. By default, the most common withholding is 3.333 of the gross sales price. That usually most individuals, if it's an investment property, will take the standard withholding. It is a withholding, it's not a tax. So a lot of individuals, they believe that it's a tax, they won't get that money back. It's a withholding, so whenever they file their income taxes the upcoming year, if they have taxes that are owed part of their capital gain, then they'll get reimbursed back. If they don't owe anything, excuse me, if they don't owe anything, they'll get reimbursed back, but if they do owe something, then they'll pull the taxes on the capital gains from the withholding. There is a couple alternative withholdings that they can apply for. The second most common would be 12.3% on the capital gain. So the sellers can compute what their gain is going to be for this property that they're selling. And sometimes it's less of a monetary value for them to do an alternative at 12.3 versus 3.3 of the gross sales price. A trust will also qualify for 12.3 withholding on the alternative. If it's a corporation or a S corp, those have an alternative. So it depends on what type of seller is selling, of what their alternative would be. There, excuse me, there is a couple exemptions for the withholding. The automatic exemption is if the sales price is 100,000 or less. If the sales price is 100,000 or less, then we don't have to even complete the form. They're automatically exempt. But if it's 100,001 penny or more, then we do have to worry about it. Another exemption, it could be if it's the seller's primary residence at the moment, then they would be exempt. They would complete the form accordingly. If it was their primary residence 2 years within the last 5-year period, if they have a zero gain or a loss on the sale, they would be exempt from the withholding. They do have to compute that loss, so they have to have proof and calculate that loss. The state requires them to submit that documentation. If it's an LLC or a corporation, or if the seller is doing a 1031 exchange, then they would be exempt from the state withholding. Do you guys have any questions so far? Yes, sir.
So if they're a resident, however, a parent passed away and they were in the trust, so then it converts to theirs to the trust. And it may be less than 2 years, but they were living there for well over 2 years.
As long as those are primary residents upon passing and it's under trust, then they can claim the primary residence exemption. And the form itself has an additional verbiage kind of spelled out in regards to that.
And then how would a seller prove a loss?
So they have to compute it. So part of the form, the 593 form, has an itemization that they had to complete. Yeah. Yes,
Any exemption for probate?
If it was their primary residence for the estate, then they can be exempt. So not the administrator, because whenever it's a probate transaction, they're selling on behalf of the estate. And if the estate was their primary residence, then they could claim exemption. If it wasn't their primary residence, so if it was a rental or an investment property, then they would be subject to the withholding.
And then on that 12.3 gain on
Yes.
trust, are you referring to like what they bought it for versus what we sold it at the time of close?
Yes, so they will do the computation. So one example that I always like to say is, let's say they're selling the property for $200,000, but they're only making a $10,000 profit. It would be cheaper for them to do 12.3% on the $10,000 profit versus 3 1/3 on the sales price of the $200,000. So that they would have to compute that what their profit is going to be. That
And
improve
you
that.
guys would help them calculate that?
Unfortunately, it's not something that we can help them calculate. We always would refer them to their CPA or their tax advisor. Yes, it's right.
Yeah, the priors, we had item 6, 1031 exchange. Do you have the 1031 exchange?
Yes, so we don't handle them ourselves specifically, so I'm not an exchange officer, but we do process them through our escrow file. So we'll work with the exchange officer to assist them with the process.
Well, I would be working on 1031 with a client. Who would be contacting you about?
Yeah, so we have a couple exchange officers that we recommend. We have Greg Burns and Kathy McKenzie that we work with on a regular basis. And I can send you their contact information if you'd like, absolutely.
So you outsource an accommodator or
Yes.
it's you guys?
Yeah, so an accommodator is a different role, part of the escrow transaction. So they would have to set up the 1031 exchange with that exchange officer. But we work closely together, so it's a streamlined process and it doesn't interrupt the real estate process. So I work very closely with the exchange officers, and 9 times out of 10, I am actually the one getting the signatures for them on their behalf. Now, one of the complications with withholding is when it comes to an installment sale. An installment sale is also known as a seller carryback or owner financing. State of California will require that we do withholding on the down payment. So let's say they're carrying back a promissory note, they're selling the property 250,000, they're financing 150,000, the down payment is 100,000. They will require us to do the withholding 3 1/3 of the down payment. But they will also require that the buyer withhold 3 1/3 of every principal payment made for that promissory note. So if the monthly payment is 1,500, 500 goes to interest and 1,000 goes to the principal, they will require that the buyer withhold 3 1/3 of the $1,000 that goes towards the principal. And they have to mail that every month to the franchise tax board. So the way that they have the tax law written up is it's the buyer's responsibility to make those withholding payments for the seller. Now, they do have an option that the seller can claim the full, the full gain on their returns when they do their return. And then their accountant or CPA can submit an exemption while they prepay the withholdings on that $100,000 that are left over versus paying them on a monthly basis. It is something that happens after we've closed escrow, so the seller would have to consult with their CPA after the fact to prepay.
Does that money stay with the franchise tax board or does they get it?
The franchise tax board will hold on to it as a withholding, and then whenever they file their taxes the upcoming year, they will have that withholding sitting there. If they owe any capital gains, then they'll charge their taxes part of that withholding. It would be similar to if you're a regular W-2 employee, how they withhold our wages, the franchise tax board wants to withhold it. And the reason that they do this is in the early 2000s, I believe it was in 2003, there was a lot of investors that were flipping property on a regular basis. They were not accounting for their capital gains. So the state of California had a lot of liens out for these investors that were not paying their taxes. So to mediate those liens, they mandated that all title companies do withholding at the time of sale. Now, in regards to the 1099 and the IRS, I'm sorry, do you guys have any questions in regards to the state of California?
I just don't, I wanted to make a comment, you have the buyer be the responsible party to make that payment, like. how
Absolutely.
do you have that?
It's something that we always are puzzled about.
Yeah,
The buyers 9 times out of 10 aren't CPAs or tax advisors or don't understand the taxes, so we're not sure why the state of California would have made them the responsible party to make that withholding payment.
they might withhold it altogether.
So if the seller is going to do the total carryback of the property, how would that work? So they have, once the buyer makes the payment, then the seller has to withhold that 3.33 out of that payment and put it somewhere, or how does that?
Yeah, so technically the buyer is responsible to withhold 3 1/3 of the principal portion only, not the taxes, but the principal payment. Or excuse me, not the interest, the principal payment, and the buyer is responsible to mail it to the franchise tax board on behalf of the seller. On every installment payment
But when he withholds it, you're saying he's sending it to the IRS every time.
to the franchise tax board for the state of California.
And then the seller has to claim the interest that they're charging
Yes,
as income.
when the upcoming year. So it'll be, if their monthly payments will be the 12 monthly payments of 2024 would be claimed in 2025.
So what happens if the buyer doesn't pay it?
They keep the
What's
note.
exactly happening?
The buyers respond, they get penalized.
Oh, okay,
It's like
yeah, I was like, how's that gonna work?
Yeah, because the one, the seller was the one that was good.
And whenever it's an installment sale, the buyer is penalized if they're not making the payments. The same thing with us. If we're responsible to do withholding part of our escrow transaction and we don't satisfy those requirements, the franchise tax board will penalize us for not making the withholding payments.
I have a question. on
Yes,
that. I purchased a home, in 2022.
Yes,
The
sir.
seller is financing. Does that apply to me or this
Yes.
is a new regulation?
No, so whenever you purchase the property, you sign the 593 part of the installment sale where you're responsible to do withholding on the principal payment for every payment you make to the seller.
Now, I bought it through an LLC. My tax preferred or my tax accountant will be able to tell me that because I don't think they told me that.
Yeah, was your seller an LLC or corporation?
The seller has a trust.
Yeah, so you should be doing withholding payments on the principal portion. You would be subject to that.
And I have to send that to the tax board.
Yes,
That's
so
1.3.
let's say hypothetically your payment's 1,500, 500 goes to interest and 1,000 is the principal portion. You have to do 3 1/3, send that to the franchise tax board on behalf of the buyer. Excuse me, on behalf of the seller. If you're not doing it, then you're subject to penalties from the franchise tax board.
Okay, now the seller aware of these, through the escrow or?
So whenever the seller is signing their escrow documents, they sign, it's called a 593. That's the form that we use to report it to the franchise tax board. And if it's an installment sale, the buyer is also responsible to sign it. So it would have been something that you signed when you closed the escrow.
I have to go back to to see the documents from the title company and see what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
So one last question on
Yes.
top of his question there. So his payment, let's say is 1,500 for the principal,
Yes.
but the owner wants the 1,500 and says, no, I want my 1,500. What then?
It would be kind of a conflict. So the buyer's response, it's in the buyer's interest to ensure that they follow the tax law.
Right.
Because then they get penalized, and that's why they have those penalties to ensure that they follow that tax law.
So it's settled before the close of escrow, hopefully, you know.
Yes, and before their form was a lot more vague, they've actually enhanced it and updated, and now they have like an acknowledgement. So they have a disclosure on the actual form that the buyer has to sign acknowledging that. Yes, Ms. Rhonda.
What? How do the seller know that the buyer is actually doing this? Because if it doesn't, can the state come in, with non-payment of taxes and repossess the property?
So they would penalize them. Whenever the buyer submits the withholding payment, they use a form is called a 593V. And the buyers should be giving the seller a copy as proof. Whenever the seller does their income taxes, the upcoming year, then that's what they utilize to claim that there's all that withholding sitting at the franchise tax board on their behalf. So,
No, the previous, about the previous year.
yeah. So whenever the buyer makes the withholding payment, they fill out the 593V form and they mail that to the franchise tax board with their withholding payment.
When did this come about? Has this been a long time?
So I believe it was in 2008 is whenever they required it. Before, we were allowed to do a full withholding. So the seller would prepay the withholding at the close of escrow. That's not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So if this is 3.33% of the principal on each installment, every month as the loan matures, that number is gonna change.
Right, because it's depending on the principal portion.
Right.
So if more goes towards the principal, so what I do personally on my transaction, I would generate an amortization schedule and I provide it to them. However, if they make let's say they win the lottery or they get a bonus or something. And they prepay $10,000 towards the principal, that 10,000 will still be subject to the withholding. Plus, it's gonna throw off all their numbers on the amortization schedule because they've prepaid towards the principal. I always, whenever I'm going over the withholding on the installment sales to my clients, I very detailed to let them know what their responsibilities are. And then I advise them to consult with their CPA. Their CPA can assume these responsibilities on their behalf.
That amortization table you provided to the seller or to the buyer?
To both of them, the lender and the buyer. Yeah. And it's important, that's why we're wanting to have these classes. I don't think there's a lot of title companies that are, or escrow companies talking about the responsibilities of the withholding, and it's very important. Now, in regards to the IRS with the federal reporting withholding, whenever we sell a property, if it's an investment property, the seller is subject to us providing them with a 1099. However, they're able to claim exemption if they own the property as their primary residence 2 out of the last 5 years. If they did not sell a primary residence within the last 2 years, they didn't use this property for rental or any business purposes. The sales price is $250,000 or less as an individual, or $500,000 as a married couple, or they did not acquire the property through an exchange in the last 10 years. If all of these options are true, then they claim for they can claim for the exemption of non-reporting, and we don't 1099 them. If any of these questions is false, then we have to send out a 1099, and we would send that to the IRS on their behalf. The 1099s, I know that this is kind of an important date right now. So we mail out the 1099s, and the due date has, the 1099s have to get mailed out on or before February 28th. So I've had a couple of my sellers call me asking them, they want to do all their taxes already. Fortunately, they haven't received the 1099, and we don't have access to them until after February 28th. Now, in order to, if you do work with an investor that is flipping properties or working on investment properties on a regular basis, then the way to combat these taxes is to utilize a 1031 exchange. Essentially, a 1031 exchange will defer their capital gains to a future time. So if you're selling a property to buy other property, you don't want to pay taxes on that. The way that the tax law is written, you're subject to those taxes when you touch that money. The way that 1031 exchange works, the money goes to intermediary, which would be the exchanger. Therefore, you never physically touch that money, so you're not subject to those taxes. The time that you would be subject to those taxes is whenever you actually cash out on that property and you pocket that money. Once you touch that money, then now you're subject to those taxes. Yes.
Now, are you subject to the full amount if you use some of that money to purchase property, but then the property needs some repairs and stuff, and you use the rest of the money to do the repairs? So it's all going to the property, just in different
stages. So there's different types of exchanges out there. It depends on how the exchange is set up. And unfortunately, Ron, I'm gonna have to defer your question to an exchange officer. That's not something that I would know the answer to, if they can break it out in stages, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. Absolutely.
Can you define like for like property and maybe any gray areas where they're kind of alike, but not really?
Absolutely. So like for like property would be if you have a single family residence, then you have to buy a single family residence. You can't go from a single family residence to buying farmland or farmland to single family residence. That has to be like for like property to be able to exchange into.
So if, let's say it was a rental and then it was a owner occupied, how would that work?
So, say that again, I'm sorry. If it was a rental and it was owner occupied?
A rental to owner occupied.
You cannot utilize a 1031 exchange to buy a primary residence, no. So it would have to be a rental for a rental. You can't utilize a 1031 exchange to sell a rental and buy a primary residence.
But a single family could go to a duplex?
Yes, yeah, so, we consider 1 through 4 as single family residents. If it's 5 or more buildings, then that's when it's considered commercial.
So your 45 days to identify the replacement property, when does that begin? When I come to you and say I want?
So the 45 days starts when we close escrow on your sale. So on the day of closing, that's when the 45 days starts. Now, one of the things that I always advise to my sellers is make sure you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and identify multiple properties. Because if the 45 days have expired, you can no longer identify any other property. So even though you've identified that property, doesn't mean that you're committed to purchasing it. You just have it as a possibility, a backup plan.
And they can have them burned down.
Right. Yes, sir.
Now for say, bar and grill. It doesn't have to be another bar and grill, just another commercial property, it can't be another single family residence.
Right, yeah. But usually the like for like is single family to single family, ag land to ag land, bear land to bear land, commercial to commercial.
Yeah.
Now, from the close of escrow, you have 180 days to close on your replacement property, and that runs concurrently with the 45 days. Yeah, so when you close escrow, then you have 6 months to close escrow on your purchase property for that replacement. We do have an escrow exchange processing fee to utilize the exchange through our file. It's $250 that the seller pays. And then the exchange company has their own fee. It varies from $800 to $1,200. It depends. Every company has a different fee and it depends on their circumstances. One of the things I didn't add on my PowerPoint here, but you can utilize an exchange and sell multiple property. So you can sell, let's say you have an investor that's selling their rental portfolio and they have 5 properties. They can use an exchange to sell those 5 properties and then buy something bigger. So if they have 5 small commercial properties and they want to buy something a little bit bigger, you can utilize multiple escrow transactions for your exchange. The only kicker is all of those have to close within that 45-day period so you can identify. So the timing of it can be a little tough sometimes.
And these fees are separate from escrow fees.
So the $250 is something that we charge. It's a processing fee for us to help them with the exchange. And the exchange company has their own fee that they charge.
And isn't that 180 days risky if they need 3 properties, but 2 people don't want to wait that long? You know, to keep 3 properties on the string.
Yeah, and you don't have to wait the full 180 days. Usually they close pretty quickly, but the problem is, so exchanges can get very complex. There's one that's called a reverse exchange, and a reverse exchange, they purchase their property first and then they sell afterwards and they exchange backwards. So whenever you purchase it, you don't pay any taxes, and when you sell, the money goes back to the exchanger. So the reverse exchanges can be a little bit more complicated, but there's different types of exchanges out there.
And I forgot the time frame on the reverse.
I believe it's the same.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe it's 180, but let me double check and I'll let you know, just to make sure.
One other
Yes.
question, if you do like 2 or 3 properties and the money's going out, do they charge you, the exchange company each time?
Yes, so a lot of times it's the same exchange file and they just have a concurrent fee. It's usually about $250 to $500 for they don't charge you the full-blown exchange fee. They just add an additional file fee. Do you guys have any other questions? I know taxes are pretty fun, right? This is my contact information here in case you guys have any questions. I always like to offer myself, if you guys have any questions. I know sometimes you're working with a different escrow officer, you guys don't get a response, or you want a second opinion, feel free to reach out. So,
No questions?
Every time I learn something new though, 'cause David did this with another group and I was like, what the heck, man? And it was good though too, because yesterday he was in a 1031 class all day with commercial and ag, so I'm like, oh, good, that's perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to use our active farm so you can get more listings and talk about these things that you just learned.
Let me share this.
I wonder if I should I do my, do you think my phone will work to connect or should I?
Yeah, if you have,
Yeah.
yep.
Do I do it with the connector or just the screen share?
No, just screen mirroring. It's an iPhone?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that. Training center, yeah.
When she gets back, you'll be operating, come on, and step out, go this way, we'll have lunch for everybody.
Oh,
So it'll be a luncheon line,
oh, very good.
but guess first.
Oh, no, I'm okay. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Are we coming back in? Yeah. Lunch and
Can't tell if Zoom is seeing that.
Oh. Yeah, think about that. Is it a different app that we have? Walking farm, it's black and has little footsteps. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. That one, right? Yep, yep.
Thought I had it.
Oh, you used to.
I used to write and then, okay.
Yeah, if you don't use them, they just disappear kind of somewhere on your phone.
I know, I probably it's an update when you get a new phone.
Oh,
You don't
yes,
download everything.
they don't download, yeah. Mhm.
Is that okay, Simon?
Oh, yeah, no, that's perfect.
No, I can take it out.
Yes,
Lunch is here.
yes, yeah.
I take your time.
Okay.
Okay, what are you trying to do?
Oh, he said he doesn't think Zoom is seeing my,
And then
My
I'll
screen
just-
share.
I'll send you the contact information to the exchange officers that we work with. That we have different responsibilities, but we work together to make the royalty process streamlined. So any questions?
David, do you think, did Greg mention anything about he could do Zoom meetings?
I'm sure he should be able to.
Cause that might be really good if I could get him to do one for them.
No, so,
It's not downloading, maybe how.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, maybe, yeah.
Oh,
It's the
on your
same password you
property?
use title now?
Yeah.
That's the password you use for title now?
Yeah, look at
And
that, well, that's
What
what, I haven't used it
explain to
since.
my buyers and sellers. is
Okay, cause I
we have
can
to pay these
reset the
taxes
password.
regardless.
I just wanna make sure
Changes
this
is
is
how-
Yeah.
I can reset the password, but it'll reset.
y'all
your-
just came for food, didn't ya?
Oh.
Lazy asses.
Okay.
You have to, get off the Zoom.
Hmm?
You have to be on,
I have to be.
you're sharing this way, so it's not tied to Zoom.
Right.
Oh.
So on your phone, you gotta be on Zoom, show your screen, if that works. I'm not sure if it does.
I'm gonna leave my card right now.
Okay, thank you.
I've never done it that way.
With the Zoom link. Do you have the Zoom?
I'll give you the ID. Do you have Zoom on your phone?
Yeah. I see what you mean.
Hit join. 559-300-9101. Join. 2121.
Where's me?
Yeah, join.
What a good feature that was. Now what should I do? I'm on mute.
Okay.
Okay, will it make, okay, it's not echoing anymore.
Can I share your screen?
I know, I shouldn't.
Okay, on those of you on Zoom, can you, hey, Lisa, can you hear? Connie, can you talk?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yay! Hi, Elisa.
Hi.
Let me mute her. Who said you can unmute yourself? I said,
There's our Bob.
You told me to talk.
Oh, she got back.
Some sodas and chips for whoever hasn't seen them.
Oh, wow. Sure, we're being spoiled today.
No, look at you guys.
Typically when we're doing sound, they unmute everybody.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
allow them to
Mhm.
unmute. Because I'm like, if you want to ask a question, show up. At this training, I would not put it on Zoom. That would be it.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go through it because I don't,
mute it just so you know, so when Kevin comes back.
oh, when he comes back, okay, yes, because I'm gonna move to the website right after. I'm just gonna do this, a quick overview of it. If you wanna meet with me personally, we can do this and sit down and I can go slower. Because I know you guys, we only have a little bit more time. So this is Chicago Title Walking Farm. This was made to go door knocking. That's what they made the app for. They made it so that it was easier for you guys to go out, go to knock on doors, know who you're talking to when you get to the door, take notes and all of that fun stuff. And then a couple years ago, they added the website Active Farm. So Active Farm connects to your walking farm. You can do both things on either a phone or website, but sometimes it's easier if you want to go deeper into your farms to use the website. So I'll just start on here and you're going to do create a farm. And then you can do any of these: walking farm, polygon, radius, or subdivision. For the app, I'm just going to show you the walking. So we'll do walking farm. It'll pull up where you're at. So say we're going to go walk this neighborhood here. We'll zoom in, we'll hit draw map. Make sure you're going over the houses that you're going to go see. We'll do next. We'll call it either the street or whatever you'd like. I'm just going to put walking. And then after it loads the properties, it tells me there's 29 records there. And then it'll tell you who's owning and who's renting of those houses that you're going to go knock on eventually. Oh yeah, was this the street Mike was talking about yesterday? Lots of renters. Okay, so the red are renters, green are owners. So you'll go to farm. And then it'll automatically pull it up in list view. And you can see on the side there, it has the red for the renters and the green for the owners. So you're going to go knock on the door of 2409 Sally. Tells you the owner's name here. But then here you can take notes. So you can put in that renter's name. You can put their phone number, anything you talk about inside with them. You can put the notes in. And then after you add a note, always make sure at the top right here where it says save in green, hit that save button so it saves your notes. Because if you don't hit save, it won't save as you're swiping through to the next house. So we're done here. We're going to swipe over. We'll go to the next house and go to the next house. And then after you're done walking that farm, you can share this whole Excel and PDF. So it'll give you the Excel so that you can either do labels or anything like that for your company or for postcards. And it'll do a PDF and it'll have all of the notes that you took while you were walking that farm. Go back here. If too you're here and maybe it's not an owner occupied, this is not the person living there, you can change this yourself to renter as well. So if you can have that for your records as well. And then at the bottom here, it has start walking and that will just start at the first house. The other one is share with, and that's when you're going to email the farm. So when you email it, it'll give you the PDF and the Excel. And then it has the paid version of it is getting emails and phone numbers. So if you wanted to get emails and phone numbers from the place that you just visited, you can do that. And then on the website is where you put in your credit card information and everything like that.
What's the name of the app?
Chicago Title Walking Farm. I just did your neighborhood that you went to. Yep. Look at all the renters. Lots of red. I'll share this one with you. Uh, Yep. So basically that's all I would use the app for. I like the website if you want to dive deeper into your farm. But the walking farm just to go door knocking is great, especially if you're going to be doing your open house. You're going to go walk around and give flyers. You know exactly who you're talking to when you get to the door. You know exactly what kind of flyer to leave that person too. So these are really good for you to use while you're out and about door knocking. Okay, how do I get back to this part? The website?
That'll be, Kevin. So you have a-
Sorry, Kevin.
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it legal to leave the hangers on the doorknobs if I say it?
I heard that it's not okay to leave if I sell yet. But I think Tulare is okay. Does anybody know that? I get them all the time. I get them all the time in Tulare. Yeah, okay.
So you knock on the doors now, I'm Century 21.
You can hand
Real
it to me
estate
when I
agent.
sell it, you just leave it on the
Where do you
door.
plan on moving?
I'm gonna get out of this.
Send them in the bank.
Yes, yes, I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna get off of this Zoom.
There you go. All right.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm back. Okay, so this is your complete farm. You can change it to any of these. These right here are all free to use. Anything that's below the premium data, is things that you can pay for. You can pay for these a la carte, or you can have the monthly plan. It's up to you. Phone numbers and emails are 8 cents a record, so you can go on there and get those as well. After you do your farm, wait a few hours, make sure before you purchase any phone numbers and emails, because it has to load and find all the information, and then they'll pop in there. The best one for you guys to use too, if you're new to farming and you want to farm a certain area, they have this gold farm right here. Not every subdivision or area is going to have records, because it has to meet a certain algorithm that Active Farm created. And these are the most likely to sell in the area, and it's a 70% accuracy rate.
What was that called?
Gold Farm.
We're not gonna turn over.
Yep.
In your premium, you had divorces,
Mhm.
death, and a few other ones.
Yes.
How did you guys get that information?
Active Farm pulls it from the county. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, for any of you always looking for divorces or deaths or anything like that, that is pretty cool.
Yes, and yeah, you can do the monthly where it gives you a certain amount, or you can just pay by record.
And you said 8 cents a record.
For phone numbers and emails, I'll show you what the everything else is at there's like a little drop down that gives you a pricing for all of them as well.
What's baby boomers? I mean, obviously I know what that is, but.
A baby boom, well, yeah,
It's-
baby boomers, yep, yeah. So you soft-hearted ones, baby boomers are a good one to work with, because you're very gentle and kind and you know how to talk. Charlie, when you did yours yesterday, that was lovely. So you have to have that same exact kind of demeanor when you're working with your baby boomers, because they're moving somewhere maybe that they don't want to move to. So that's a good one to work with. But yes, Gold Farm's great. Not always will be there. So if you pull up a farm and you don't see any Gold Farm, that's because it didn't meet their criteria. But definitely work in there. And then also too, so I'm going to come back to my complete farm. Say you have someone, a buyer, and they want to live in Shannon Ranch, but they want certain things. So you're going to go in here and you're going to go to this little filter button. And then these are all people that well, my trainings that I've chosen. So they'll keep your people in there. So we'll say let me add a new person. So this is Mike, my picky buyer. He wants a pool. He wants a certain amount of bedrooms and baths. So you can just add as many of the criteria that you want in here. Let's say he wants 2 or more baths. Let's do greater than.
4 bedroom.
That's true. 1, 2, 3, 4. Greater than. Okay, so we'll save that. Oops, I didn't fill it out. To save. So he'll save right here. So we're going to save our Mike filter. We're going to apply it to Shannon Ranch, and then it'll pull up all the records that have his criteria. So that's when you go in there and you send your magic buyer letter to all of your people and tell them, I have a buyer looking for this. Are you interested in selling? And you can go from that way and get them a house and maybe get some more listings out of it as well.
And you actually, this has pages and pages of them.
Yes. 58 records.
So you can go back and filter, they want at least 2,000 square feet.
Yep. And then you can take that filter off too. So we'll stop filtering. And we'll go back to our complete farm of 1,036 records.
I mean, this is what I like about the filters, guys. In the past, if you wanted somebody in there, you had to send out 1,000 mailers. Now you only send out 58 mailers.
Yeah.
And you get specific to what your customer wants.
Yep.
And out of those 58, if you wanted to further reduce it to only ones that are minimals, you might get 10 or 12. I mean, these filters are really kind of magic.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. And then this little share button here, we'll just share. This was where you'll print your labels, do the Excel version if you're using a company. This will also, if you go over here to CRM exports, it will also upload, or it won't upload to your Moxie, but it'll save it the way your Moxie likes the fields to be. So you'll hit Moxie and then it'll get all the right criteria put together, and then you can upload that straight to your Moxie. And then also too, if you use different third-party vendors like a dialer, you don't have to purchase the phone numbers from here. You can do that. Corfact is on here, so that's a great postcard company that you guys can use as well. Corfact is one of our,
Vendors.
yeah, mhm.
Man, you could do a whole training just on that. That thing's awesome.
I do, I have someone that I can send to you guys to do that, yeah. Yeah,
And
cause
for
she's
anybody
great.
who Wants to do mailers and put it all like in one-stop shop, you can buy it from them, they'll mail it for you.
Yep.
You gotta buy the addresses still, but it is kick butt. Set somebody up.
Yeah, so if you have this farm, you just download it to your Corfact from from our active farm from here, and then they'll print post mail for you. And they're great. They have little QR codes at the bottom too, so that they scan it and then you get to know, oh, someone's looking at my postcard. So that's awesome too. Also has Breakthrough Broker on here as well. Breakthrough Broker is another one of our favorites. If you were using Breakthrough Broker in the past, everything was free. They're not doing that anymore. As of March, I think they're going to be $8 a month. But they are adding a lot of new content in there, and I think that's why they have to start paying. Plus, I can't imagine why they've been free for so long. So they are changing that. But a lot of really good things on there. They've also partnered with Tom Ferry, and Tom Ferry's pushing a ton of his coaching material into Breakthrough Broker. So that is a really good one for you guys to use too. But again, you can print the labels yourself. You can get the Excel yourself, do it however you'd like. And this is just for you guys, a starting point for you guys to use, and find great, listings in here, buyers, all that kinds of good stuff. Let me see if there's anything else I want to share on this part. Oh, I was going to show you here. So over here on this help, there's the videos right here. There's webinars every day on it. So if you want to get on a webinar, learn some more. I can't show you like the extra stuff because I don't do the paid version. So if you wanted to know more about that, you can contact support and they'll set up a one-on-one with you and show you how to do that. And then this frequently asked questions right here. This is where the pricing chart is, and then it has a whole guide on how to use it. So I'll show you the pricing chart. So this is all for the extra stuff. So for $40 a month, $20 a month, there's just different things. So $20 a month gives you 500 NODs, notice of trustee, 500 phone numbers and emails a month. So it just kind of depends. And then all the a la carte is down here as well.
You can't use this in any way and just plug in the address or phone numbers if you're paying for something, can you?
If you just want one phone number, yes, we did that, right, Vera? Yes, yes, we did. Let me go back and see. I did it on the property profile though. So you don't have to use this for the property profiles, but you can type in an address.
Are they doing that? I do not call this thing and all that.
This one, let me go here and see, because I think that they just, I don't know, it's not clicking on there. Oh, it's because it was loading that map. I don't think this one is scrubbed. The other, I'll just tell us right here somewhere. No, this one's not. So they have not been scrubbed against the do not call list. This one. Title Pro 24/7. I did that one before too. And that one also has phone numbers. And that one is Title Pro 24/7. It's on your Premier Services account on the left-hand side.
The $12 a year, what is it? Just gives me access and then you buy my card after that?
What do you mean by it's not scrubbed?
Like
They have taken off the do not call list.
So you might be calling me to not call.
someone that might be kind of mean.
Oh, might be, they'll report you. You can just say, I didn't know that, sorry.
I didn't know, bye.
What's a 5 short-term rental analysis? It gives you 5, but what is that?
I'm not sure, because I don't do this part.
That's usually what that is, Airbnb.
But I can give you the person that does all the back end, like this kind of stuff,
Okay.
because I don't know. Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Yes. And I think there's a local person for Corfact because she used to come to our office and give us trainings, but I haven't seen her in a while, so I'll see. Oh, and someone came in. Okay, good, then so she probably is still local. Okay, yep, I'll reach out to them. But you could do the one, you do the property profile, and then that's where you just put in the address, and then you can get the phone number from just the one address, if they have it.
Thinking of ways to make money.
Is there a charge for that, for the phone number?
Just for the 8 cents.
Oh.
Yeah, so you'll just charge that, the 8 cents per record on that one. Let me come back here. That's where the premium dashboard, if you are gonna pay for anything on here, that's where all of it's gonna be stored in here. It's gonna tell you all the things that they have, and then that's where all of your premium will be stored. But your farm manager is where all of your farms are, and like I said too, just to farm and do those top filters are free to use. And it just depends what you want to do. You can either pay monthly or you can pay by record.
I looked at the app, then I won't open because I don't have a certain password. I just started, I don't have a password already.
The type, do you have title now? The yellow one with the black? It's the same one as that. I can reset it. That's okay. Cause I know. Trust me, I feel this,
Did mine too.
yours too? Okay. Jen. And Larry. Okay, I'm making a note. I'm gonna do that.
I'll be to change the password. The other one did it.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't. It wants me to do it and then you have to do it afterwards. From here, I just wanted to show you guys the last thing, notifications. If you don't have this checked, it won't send you an email every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, it'll tell you something, you know, what's happened in your farm within the last 2 weeks, if someone moved out or if there's new premium, like an NOD was recorded or something like that, it'll come up and it'll show you and it'll say, do you want to proceed? Do you want to purchase this? You don't have to, of course, but if you're interested in that, it just gives you the information. Other than that, I say just go in there, play around with it, make some farms. And then if you guys have any questions, I can sit with you anytime and go deeper into these. But I don't want to take much longer of your time, so. activefarmct.com. You have the walking though, right? Yeah, okay. Yep. Any questions? ct.com. And then to do a new farm, you can also, I forgot I didn't show you that. I'll show you that real quick. So do a new farm, you can do the same things as the walking besides the walking on here. So we'll do polygon, you could do it by a zip code, a city. The subdivision is cool because when you do subdivision, and you type in your city that you're gonna work in, it'll color code all the subdivisions for you. And then you can just come in here, like if you know where it was, but you don't know the name of it, you can click on them and then it'll give you what the subdivision is, how many properties are in it, and then you can create your farm from that way. Yep. You guys have any questions?
And,
Yeah.
the active farm,
Mhm.
you have in order to create an account, what do we have to do?
Do you have Premier Services?
Premier?
The one for the property profiles? No? Okay, I'll set you up. I just need your business card. Yep. And then you'll be good to go. Anything else? No? Thank you guys so much for coming today. Also too, we are gonna do more. We want to hopefully maybe come in once a month with some escrow title stuff. So if there's something that you guys are like really want to know on the escrow title side, I want to bring an escrow officer every time so that they can teach you guys little stuff. So just let me know. Awesome. Awesome. I'll get you set up when I get to the office right now. I don't know.
Good time next week.
Next week? Yes.
I say that next, probably look at my calendar.
I know, right? Monday after 11.
Probably fine.
Okay. Hi. I just saw your buddy. I just came from by the city. Yeah. Yes.
You do it your office?
Yeah. I have actually 11 pretty good. You want to do 11? Okay. Yeah. I see you then.
Yeah.
Got it.
And they're picking at it. Shouldn't tell me. I want to go to grab. Thank you.